Hey there, my name is Brent Vanderswag, and I'm the president of Gutter-Experts.com and founder of Gutter-Con, which is being held in Orlando, Florida, February 10th to 12th, 2023, at the Gaylord Palms Resort and Convention Center. I love to chat with people in the gutter industry, suppliers, inventors, manufacturers, and gutter guys and gals just like you and me. I enjoy finding out about how they got into the business, where they came from, and what their businesses are doing in the gutter industry today. Please meet my guest for today, Max Cron. Cron.
You got it.
He's Director of Sales and Marketing for Brenchmark Payments. We met Max at a convention this past summer, and we're happy to have Brenchmark participating at Gutter-Con 2023 as a major sponsor. Max will be enlightening us today about the exciting processing fees associated with credit cards that we all love. So, how you doing today,
Thank
Max?
you for the intro. And exactly, everyone does love those processing fees,
Oh,
don't they?
it's necessary evil. I mean, you know what?
Yeah,
We all love to complain, but I'll tell you, if credit cards weren't there, it would make our lives a lot more difficult, huh?
yeah. Credit cards are great both for the consumer to be able to pay immediately and not have to write a check or pay in cash, but also for the business. Except for some reason, the businesses are the ones putting the bill for all of the convenience.
Well,
And
you're going to
so,
talk a little bit about how we can maybe change that, right? That's
exactly.
going to be one of the things we're going to talk about. So,
Yeah.
we're chatting today. It's just before New Year's. It's kind of the end of the day on Friday. Not really sure what day we're going to get this posted, but I told you I was at happy hour. So cheers,
Cheers.
happy New Year to everyone out
Happy
there.
New Year.
And glad we can be chatting today.
Yes, sir.
So Max, you guys were at the huge convention, I think this past summer in August.
Yep.
That's where we met you. You guys had a booth there. I think my
Yep.
son actually was chatting with one of your colleagues. And you guys are obviously in the processing or credit card processing business. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about Max Cron and how you got into the business. You don't look like that old of a fella, so it won't be that long of a story, I think.
Yep. So I came down to Tulane in New Orleans to go to college. Wasn't really sure where I was going to end up after that, and I ended up staying. And I was working in the marketing world, all digital marketing and online advertising type of stuff for about 5 or 6 years. And I was just kind of feeling a little burnt out from it, a little tired, and I wanted to kind of make a change. And so I had planned this time period when I was going to transition into something new. And I was at the time doing freelance marketing for a lot of customers. And obviously, when you're doing freelance marketing, you're kind of also doing your own sales. And so one of the companies that I was freelancing for was Brenchmark Payments. And after about a year of doing marketing for them, they said, you know the product just as well as anybody else that works here because you've been advertising it and basically asking the same questions they ask, but just because you're making ads. So they said, why don't you come on as a salesperson also instead of just doing marketing? So where I've been for the last couple of years is running all their marketing from Facebook advertising, Google, doing interviews and doing write-ups in magazines and webinars. And so I'm very much a face of the company too, in a way, but also I'm on the back end doing sales and running people through the process of signing up for new merchant accounts. Cool. So I make a lot more money doing the sales side of it, which is great. But I also love both. Marketing seemed to be a little too introverted for me in a way. I was at my computer a lot and just going through ads on Facebook, and I would talk to my coworkers, but it wasn't much more than that. And I'm a very extroverted person. And so once I get onto a trade show floor or on stage, that's kind of where I shine. So it's great to be able to be in a role that gives me both the opportunity to be very extroverted and kind of sit back and go through all the data and do marketing and stuff on the back end. So it's been a great transition over the last couple of years. And so to jump into the credit card side of the business, Brenchmark had a history of working in the home services space. They performed really well with home inspectors, And so when I came into the company, I was like, let's keep diving into home services because it seems to be doing really well for us.
But let
And
answer this question for me. You
yeah,
say that a credit card processing company like Benchmark was really into the home inspection business.
yes.
So why? Like, what would make you so special to be focused on those guys?
So what was special about home inspection is that it's all B2C, which was a
Okay.
little bit different than the past. Benchmark did a lot of B2B business,
Okay.
and home inspection wasn't the first, but it was one of the larger forays into, B2C business.
Okay.
And it did really well because payments were taken on the spot at the time of service, or they were emailed invoices, which is slightly different than like some of the older guys who work at Benchmark. Really all they sold was those card terminals that you put your card in,
Yeah, I remember
some
that like
number.
10 years, yeah, even 15 years
Exactly.
ago,
And
20 years ago.
that's a lot of retail, and that's a lot of B2B, even where you key in the card. It's of
Yeah.
course B2C, but as we moved over towards more B2C, the products that were being sold kind of switched into these online gateways, which is basically just a digital version of that. And we saw less and less card readers. And that's great because there's less costs for the technology for us to buy it and rent it or resell it or anything. So the business model changed a little bit. And so we kind of got word from someone that worked with us, that worked in real estate a bit, that people pay for home inspections a lot on credit card. And so went to a couple coaching groups, went to a couple trade shows, found the right group for us. There were a couple of them, and just went really hard in those industries and invested a lot of
Oh,
money.
I
And
see. Yeah.
yeah, became popular in that space. And so it became very doing business in that space became much easier because
Mhm.
we were a face and people knew us. So
Right. And how
we're
long
hoping.
has Benchmark been around?
Benchmark's been around for 15 years.
Okay, so it's not a
Yeah.
new company.
No, it's not new. And credit card processing has been around a little bit longer than 15 years, but it wasn't until about 15 years ago when it became something that people were really interested in, like lowering their rates, reducing their rates, and saving
Yeah.
money.
I
Credit
mean,
cards obviously been around for
as a
50 years.
business owner, I get calls every week like, oh, we can do this, right? We can do that. And, I'm always saying, look, I'm happy where I'm at. Oh, don't you want to save money? And I feel like an idiot for saying, well, no, I'm happy where I'm at. But I'd literally be changing every day if I,
Yeah.
took everybody's call. Like it's a big space. I mean, it's huge.
One thing that's really interesting about what you just said is there's two sides of it. One is that a lot of companies can save you money in credit card processing.
Mhm.
The problem with that is that you end up making really small incremental changes. You might
Mhm.
save $20, $30 or something by switching, and that might not be worth sacrificing a relationship that you have with somebody. And that's why
Well, and
we invest.
how much are you going to save too? Like if you're
Yeah,
just going from company A to company B and you're just still processing cards the same way, I mean, everyone I would assume is playing with the same amount of money, right?
just about. And that's why companies like mine that offer the zero cost solution is kind of that final point when once you're passing credit card fees onto the customer, you never have to worry about them
Yeah,
again. It becomes almost like a non-talking point. Like you never need to think about credit card processing
right.
again.
So
And
this is what really kind of interested me because to be honest with you, and I told you this already, like if you're just going to give me you're just going to be another processing company, like what are you going to give me that's different than my company that I've been dealing with for literally 10 years already and never had a
right.
problem. They have a good customer service. I call up if there's an issue, they deal with it. I mean, there's really no reason for me to leave. But what interested me when I heard zero cost, I mean, tell us about zero cost because that's really what this is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Zero cost is when I first came to Benchmark, I was selling both what we call traditional and zero cost. Traditional is where we just like look at your rates and try to lower them and save you money. And zero cost is where we eliminate your rates by adding a fee to the customer's bill. And so I was kind of selling both at the beginning, and I kind of figured that zero cost is way hotter of a product. It's the product everyone asks me about, everyone wants, and it's the product I sell the most. So while I do sell traditional a little bit here and there, because some people are hesitant to charge the customer, and then they switch over to zero cost after a year of being a traditional client, zero cost is a little bit newer as well. And there definitely has been a history of, is it legal to do? Is it illegal to do? And it's a very gray area in terms of the fine line between the word surcharge versus zero cost. Surcharging, for example, is legal in every state except for two. So certain businesses that operate multi-state go, if I do business in Maine, I can't charge them there. And so the difference between a surcharge and like a zero cost situation is that with zero cost, you give your customers an opportunity to pay without the fee. This is the big selling point of it. And that's what makes it legal in all 50 states. Right. So certain customers of mine in Canada, where Canada surcharging just became legal in October of 2022. So more and more people are doing surcharging, but the general zero cost cash discount, it's also called IDEA, is legal in all 50 states because you give an alternate payment method. Usually it's cash, check, or ACH. And that's where, you know, a customer can choose to pay with an additional fee and collect loyalty points and miles, or they can pay on ACH and not pay that additional fee. So basically at the time of payment or at the time of an estimate, companies let their customers know if you pay on credit card, there's an additional, 4% fee. So the company makes $100. They charge the customer $104. I process the $4 to process the 100. And then the 100 gets put into the business's bank account. The majority of it goes to actually process the payment. Because as you know, payment rates can get up there to 3.5%, 3.8%. So I make my money on the difference between what the card costs and that percentage, 4%. That's what allows me to keep my business going, keeps the lights on, and it all goes to the customer. So I would say of the last 10 clients that I've signed, every single one has done zero cost. And so that's what keeps pushing me forward in like home services, zero cost.
Yeah, I think, I got kind of introduced to zero cost. Well, I wasn't introduced to zero cost until I met you, but I can think back to going down to Dominican Republic a few years ago. And I'm going to say like almost 10 years ago. And whenever I wanted to purchase something, they would say, "Oh, you can use your credit card, but it's going to cost you." I think the number was 4%, and I always thought that was a little bit odd. But that's how they've been doing it down there for a long time. They just, I guess they work on such small margins that they can't afford to take credit card, but they know that they have to accept it, so that's how they do it. So
you make a really good point about two things there. One is margins. And two is like the general price of goods. So if you're giving customers the option to pay without a fee and adding the fee at the time of payment, that means you don't have to increase your price. So if you're selling your services for $100, because businesses say to me, they go, "Oh, what if I just work that 4% into my fees?" Well, great, now you're advertising $104 for your service instead of 100 or 99, which is the number you really want to be selling, $299, $399. Well, you add the processing fee, now it gets pushed over that. So you let them decide whether they want to pay it or not, and you keep your prices at a certain point. Second thing that you mentioned that's interesting is margin. So when we talk about saving that 3.5%, 4% on credit card processing, that's onto the bottom line. So, to break that down, it's like if your business is operating at 20% profit, so your margin is 20%. It costs you $80 to, buy a brick, and you sell it for 100, and you make that $20 in there. Well, now you're making $24. So it increases, even though you're only saving 3.5%, 4%, you're adding, I have merchants that have added between 10 on the low end to 30% on top of their margin. So when they were making $17 a product, now they're making, $22 a product. And it's like, it's not until we really break it down to that granular level. And like they hear, "Oh, I, can save 3.5%. but it's really like adding, 10% up to, I've said there's people that have saved 42%, added like almost doubled their margin because of the processing.
I mean, we can
And
all do math and work out a percent, but we have a mutual friend that you're chatting with, and I
yeah,
won't say his name, but he's like over $100,000 a year in credit card processing.
yeah,
And
and
so
fees.
in fees. So he's
Yeah,
obviously, doing some healthy numbers, but
yeah,
he's really looking at that $100,000 just going to MasterCard and Visa and whoever else. I mean, it's $100,000. That's a lot of money.
yeah, it is. And that's, when you talk about businesses that want to grow and businesses that have a growth mindset, and they're going to events like GutterCon, or they're going to the Gutter Pro Academy, and they're talking with other businesses and seeing what other businesses are doing to grow and how they're growing. This is one of the fastest ways to put money straight back into your bottom line,
Yeah.
so that you can say, I will hire that assistant this year, or I can put a down payment on my third truck because I've saved $60,000 last year.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about growth, there's a lot of different things you can do. And a lot of them are, I wouldn't say complicated, but time consuming. It's like, oh, we're going to re-strategize our business to use this new software that's going to make us quicker to respond to calls. And now you have to learn new software, or we're going to hire a new tech to come in, but we need to buy a new truck first. And, there's a lot of layers to growing your business, improving your efficiency. And credit card processing is one of the things that you can do, and go from starting a conversation with me to 10 days later being, or even less, using my processing, so that your savings can happen a lot quicker too. And you'll see it every single month. And so it's what a lot of businesses that have a growth mindset, they go, okay, what are the check boxes I need to do to save money for next year, or to make more money, or make my business more efficient? And credit card processing is always on that list, and it's always one of the quickest to get done. So that's why we see a lot of success in home services.
So let me ask you this, Max, and I just kind of really thought about this, and maybe this isn't a question you want me to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So what's to stop me from just sticking with my processing company that I have now, and just having the conversation with my customer at the time of sale? They'd like to they'd like to pay by credit card. Is there anything wrong with me just saying, oh, you can use your credit card, but there is a 4% charge? Like, can I just do that on my own, or does it have to be done through a processor like, what you're explaining?
Yeah, so it generally has to be done through a processor. You're allowed to add as many surcharges and fees as you want. When it's set up the right way, what happens is the processing fee is sent straight to the processor. This is an efficiency thing. If you were doing it the way you're talking about, you're collecting more for a job, and at the end of the month, you're actually paying more in processing. So it's like you still have a bill at the end of the month. So if you collected 104 from a customer, and then at the end of the month paid your 3.5%, you have a bunch of money that's sitting in your bank account that you're not really able to touch or use to make sure you can pay that bill at the end of the month. And so it's more efficient when the processing fee is taken out at the time of the payment. And so your operating income that's in your bank account reflects more of what your actual operating income is, rather than inflated by 4%. There are situations where this can save you on taxes, because your income, you're only reporting the $100 that you took in, rather than reporting the 104. So it does help people with taxes, and there's certain benefits. You can write it off, but then it's only tax deductible. It's not less income. So there's different elements to it that there's a lot of advantages to.
I guess what I'm hearing is that if we do it through you, it's like automatic, it's automated, like we're going to see it, a number in our statement, but it's all taken care of.
Exactly. Automated is a great way to put it. It's automated and it's daily. And what I mean by daily is that, the money is deposited in your account, that day or next day, depending on what time you take the payment, and the money is sent straight to the processor automatically. So there's never any, oh, how much do I owe for processing this month? It's not only does it eliminate your processing, it eliminates a bill that you have to pay at the end of the month.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's a huge part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know a lot of guys. In fact, you and I, a group that I'm involved with, you chatted with us. And, you know, I think the main, if I had to sum up everyone's concern, it's like, oh, customers are going to be pissed off at us business owners because we're charging them. Because it's kind of new, right? Like it's I know you guys have been doing it, but it's just really starting to become really popular, isn't it?
It's definitely the kind of thing that spreads like wildfire once it touches an industry.
Yeah.
For example, with home inspection, when we first got into home inspection, it took a couple months of going to shows and meeting the same people and over to start landing some clients. When people first hear about it, they immediately put up those defenses and they go, "Oh, my customer's not going to like it." And I'm like, "But you know, you can't predict the future." And I have tons of customers who do this now. So, you know, what's the difference between my home inspector or my gutter cleaner in terms of charging the customer? And there are differences, and it might just be geographic. I know, like in Las Vegas, for example, there's a ton of businesses and restaurants that charge 4%. And here in New Orleans, there's only a handful of them. So when I talk to a business owner that's New Orleans based, they go, "Oh no, I've never seen a business do this before." But you talk to someone in Las Vegas and they go, "I don't know why I don't do this. Everyone else does it." So it can work geographically in that way, but it can also work within a niche and inside a business niche. So with home inspection, for example, within 2 years, I think 90% of the home inspectors in this one coaching group I'm thinking about are all doing zero cost. And it took a little while to build up to that, meeting people, becoming comfortable with them, becoming friends with them, getting drinks with them, being hungover with them the next day at the trade show.
I think we can probably arrange some of that in February.
That sounds perfect. We're definitely gonna have a fun time at the basketball game. I've been thinking about that. That's awesome.
The VIP event. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's two.
Yeah.
I have to do a little bit of a plug here. So we have two VIP events. So on Friday night, gee.
The Top Golf.
There's a credit card. There's a credit card company calling me there right now.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Let's interview them.
Oh, just put them on speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on Friday night is, remind me.
I think it was I think happy hour was Friday night.
There is happy hour both nights, Friday and Saturday. But the VIP event is Top Golf.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Top Golf. So I've been to driving ranges before, but for those people who have never been to Top Golf, I was in Orlando this past just in November at RoofCon, and I was with another sponsor. We were down there just taking a peek at RoofCon, see how that was, how they operated. And we went out one night for dinner, and afterwards we went to this Top Golf. So have you ever been to Top Golf, Max?
I have. It
is crazy fun. Like, I'm not a golfer, but I mean, you got those screens up there. It's like there's, I don't know, there must be some sort of digital tracker in the ball or something. But I mean, it tells you the speed and the curve and where it is. It's just a really fun time. And of course, you know, they're serving you, there's food and drink there. It's just a great time. There's music. It's just fun. And then the second night, we're at an NBA game between the Orlando, help me out here, Orlando Magic and Miami Heat. So we've got a double skybox.
And it's going to be an incredible game. It's both Florida teams.
Oh yeah, they're rivals, right? Yeah. So it's just, even if you're not at Gutter-Con 2022, we were in Denver and we had a skybox for the Colorado Avalanche, the last season game, which of course the Colorado Avalanche, they won the help me out here, Stanley Cup. Yeah, and right. I'm not a fan. I'm not a big hockey fan. You think I would be living in Canada, but I'm not. But if you're ever going to watch a hockey game, that's how you want to do it, in the skybox.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say the same thing about the NBA game. So NBA is really quick too. Like, you know, there's a lot of goals being scored. There's 100+ goals being scored in a game usually, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Not like a hockey game with 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah, I was just looking at the last Avalanche game. It was like 4-5 was their last game.
They
And in
actually lost.
basketball,
They actually lost that game, the Avalanche.
yeah.
But anyway, enough about that. So yeah, we're gonna have a good time for sure. So just getting back to the payment processing. Um, so you really don't feel that as a business owner, we should be concerned about passing that cost on to the customer. It's not like going to be a deciding factor. And actually,
Exactly.
usually you're only getting to that point, after the job is done. So it's just a matter of, yes or no. It's not like, oh, how do you take payment before the job even happens? At least that's my experience. Once in a while, they'll say, oh, how do you take payment?
Exactly. Most people are going to make that decision at the time of payment, which is a
Yeah,
big difference again between raising your prices
yeah.
and doing it at the time of payment. If you're surcharging and you're surcharging everyone, it works very differently, and you can't take it away, and you can't offer the ACH, or you don't offer the ACH. It's you
So
put it in their court. Yeah, you put it in the customer's court to decide.
yeah, it's up to them. Just say, yeah, we
Yeah.
certainly do take credit card, but this is the cost versus ACH. Now, explain a little bit about ACH for those who don't know what that is. Let's just assume no one knows what that is. What's that stand for?
So ACH is automatic clearinghouse. And what that
Okay.
basically means is the company that fronts the money and then collects the money from your customer. The same way a credit card does. I mean, basically they're all clearinghouses. A credit card, you don't get charged on your credit card until the end of the month when you make a payment. And then the
Right.
company takes that time to collect the payment, and then they pull it from your account a month after the bill is even due. So a credit card company, for example, you make a payment December 1st, you pay off your bill January 1st, and then the credit card company collects their money before February 1st. But the business wants to get paid on December 1st when it happened. So that credit card company, MasterCard, Visa, or whoever the backing banks are, front that money to the business, and then they get paid back. And so ACH is very, very similar. They're just cutting out the credit card brand side, and it's straight from the bank account. So in order to make an ACH payment, a customer gives their bank account and routing number.
Right.
And so it's very similar to taking a credit card through a virtual terminal, which basically is a web browser that you go to, and it has like name, address, phone number, credit card number, CVV, month of expiration. But instead, it just has name, phone number, address of service, or whatever fields you want, and then bank account number, routing number. And there's advantages and disadvantages to it. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 days to clear an ACH, whereas credit cards are faster, which is great. Everyone wants their money faster. And the other thing is like privacy and security. And credit cards come into play in that it protects the user from their bank account information being given out to a company. Sometimes some processors require an ACH authorization form so that they're authorized to pull money out of a bank account. Some people have like locks on their bank account, so that if I gave you my bank account routing number and then somehow your computer got hacked and someone got my account number, they can't just pull money out of my account without it being approved first.
Right.
So certain people who want to take the time to fill out an authorization form, not every processor has authorization forms, but some do for privacy and risk reasons. They have to fill out an extra authorization form and give them their account and routing number. And that's great. And a lot of people do that. I would say about the average business, 10% of people pay on ACH to avoid the fee on average.
So is there any fee at all to the company when you do that?
So there's different situations depending on how the processing is done. So for example, if you use QuickBooks charges customers 1% to process ACH with a maximum, I think, of maybe $10 for a transaction. Okay. So often when I place merchants with credit card processing, oftentimes, I won't say every single time, but most times we do the ACH processing for free. And the reason that we can do it for free is because we're really making our money on the credit card side and then kind of covering their costs on the ACH side. So a lot of other companies will say, yeah, we do credit cards at 4% and ACH at $15 a month or $25 a month or 0.5% per transaction, and you end up paying for that. And one advantage that we have is just the way our business is structured. We know that 80% of people on average, or 90% of people on average, are going to be paying on credit card. So why are we going to charge the customer?
Even if they have to pay the 4%, they'll
Yeah.
your experience is that they'll still do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
Some of them will switch over to, yeah, some of them will switch over to ACH, but most of them won't. Most of them will not. And so when you give them the option, most of them want the convenience of paying on card. They just consider that part of the price. You know, if there's a business that's really worried about, you know, I know having working equipment is essential, but having the newest model of the newest thing isn't always essential. And what happens is a lot of people forget that it's about their service. It's about how they treat the customer. It's about how their process and efficiency is. And of course, it's about providing a good service. And yes, upgrade your equipment, of course. But a lot of people forget that the reason that you keep hiring somebody and keep coming back to them is that they did a good job. And that's not just with the product, it's with the entire service side of it. And as a service-based business, people shouldn't be afraid of, you know, I have a window washer that I work with, and he's the most expensive window washer in his area. And he's charging 4% with his zero cost situation, right? Most businesses we work with do 4% unless they're kind of massive businesses. So it's like, you know, sometimes business owners get isolated and they forget, like your group, what I love about it is that they talk to each other. And so, you know, I have one business, it often is this situation. I have one business owner who isn't doing a ton of volume, and he's very, very cheap in his price and is very hesitant to do zero cost. It's because his mindset is price focused and that customers will refuse because of your price. And then I have another customer who charges significantly more than the average for window washing in his area, and switching him over to zero cost was a no-brainer. Because the general concept is that when you pay more for a service, you're getting better service. It's not always true, but most of the time you like to think it's true. You pay $100 for a steak versus $20 for a steak. The $100 steak is most likely going to be a better steak most of the time. So when business owners switch their mindset from being price competitive to being service competitive, they're going to be a lot better, and they're going to make a lot more money. And things like doing zero cost or not zero cost become much more irrelevant. When they have the newest equipment, now they're using a CRM to organize. They have a company that they're doing for marketing to call and give them new leads. They're not worried about whether their price is 180 or 210 for the same service, because they know their service is outstanding. And so that's when it becomes really easy for me to sell processing, when businesses think in terms of that. Of course, that's not always the case, and they're definitely price sensitive. I'm not saying don't be price sensitive, but like, you know, inflation, interest rates are on the rise. Like if a business didn't raise their rates by a minimum of 15-20% in the last 2 years, they're making less money with the same amount by asking the same amount. $100 in 2017 is not worth $100 today. It's worth more than that. So if a company's been charging $100 for a gutter cleaning, for example, for the last 5 years, haven't raised their rates, their spending power of that $100 they're making now is less than it was 5 years ago.
It sure is.
And especially in the last year. So what a lot of people are doing to fight inflation and fight interest rates on the rise is to switch over to something like zero cost, because it's a really easy way to get that money back quickly and not say, well, if we start doing marketing, it might take us 6 months to